Question. So what is, oh, I need a marker. Just I don't have no markers. So what are the key things that come out of the unit? Now, we ain't reading now. So look at the topics, look at the area, and let's see what can help you in answering this question. Everybody read the question, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I see risk appetite.
Okay, hold on, I can get my pen.
Yeah.
Okay, 950K. Yeah, I want to look at it. I have some. Okay, so first thing you see is risk appetite. What else is it about? Hmm? You didn't read much? So no wonder they read the chapter.
She gave us pages to read for the following classes. She broke it down in four. Was out there being serious? What a sick.
Yeah, there's so much many risks.
Yes, but the question is about risk.
Yeah,
No, but we didn't do Unit 5. But
No.
we did Unit 4 with us.
We're supposed to do Unit 5.
Yeah.
So coming in here today, you should have already read
I ain't read
Unit
all
5 or started to read Unit 5.
I started.
Because the question is on Unit 5.
Okay. Go on.
Because I played the first paper was on Unit 4.
Right. Because all them examples.
All the examples
we
were
ain't
Unit 4.
learned Unit 4 until after the paper.
That was the
See
funny
the
part.
problem? All them examples.
They tricked us.
They tricked us.
No, y'all weren't tricked. You asked for take home,
That means we're supposed to read the chapters ourselves.
read the whole book.
Hi.
All right, so let's go. Notice what the Unit 5 is about. There are two key words there.
Regulatory compliance.
Regulatory compliance. So we're talking about managing and mitigating against regulatory risk. So let's go to page 224. What are they talking about there?
What point what? Understanding
No point.
regulatory risk.
Understanding regulatory risk.
2.1. Nice stuff in front of the
No, page 224. Understanding regulatory risk.
3.
Uh-huh.
Number 3,
Okay.
understanding regulatory risk. I see it reflects back to Unit 4.
Mm-hmm. Because Unit 4 speaks about compliance risk.
Right. Compliance risk and compliance.
So regulatory risk, right in the middle, says arises when there are changes to regulation which may have impacts on the way a company does business. In practical terms, regulatory changes that can affect businesses and their operating models come about as a result of many factors, including international regulatory developments, national regulatory developments, managing the more traditional reputational regulatory risk, allied to anti-money laundering, financial crime, anti-bribery, corruption, sanctions compliance, having to manage extensive sales remediation activities. Then they telling you governance, risk, and compliance and the reasons why we manage regulatory risk. They say managing risk is a key pillar of GRC because 1. Risk and control framework support the governance structure. 2. Regulatory risk management gives firms an inventory of all the regulatory and legislative framework components which they must comply. 3, RRM highlights the regulatory developments, interprets them, and then analyzes current compliance and the gaps that need to be filled. RRM also examines the effectiveness and appropriateness of controls in place and whether they respond to deficiencies identified by the regulator. Now, let's go to your question. How did the issue come about?
Monetary review.
You asked how did the what come about, the issue?
Breaches.
All these stuff come about after they implement this new software.
A breach.
A breach.
He had a breach.
Analysis breach. Incident.
So what was the actual breach?
Client had been incorrectly stored in the online records of several unit input error. That's the issue. After the software, they put,
So is that a regulatory breach?
Is it?
No,
No.
that's an internal error, but it's mandated based on FDR, no.
But if you mandate to have accurate
record
records.
keeping.
What's the legislation?
The record keeping rule we talked about?
No, FD.
You are. What's the legislation? Data
You better hurry
Protection
and sit
Act.
down.
Yeah,
Grab your
keep it
book.
sharp.
Data Protection Act.
Good night.
So, good night. So you do have a regulatory requirement.
Oh, for that, yeah.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
So it's a regulatory breach. When you see the words, you are a regulatory compliance. It means that you are a compliance officer in charge of being the gatekeeper for regulations. So an RRM model, that's 225, should cover all aspects of the business model, whether it is company-wide or focused specifically on one business area. And this can be broken into 4 specific components, and then they give you the components. Hold on one second. So they just you have to keep in your mind, what is the RRM for this organization?
For this company,
This us company.
RRM.
The papers on Unit 5 is talking about risk, is a regulatory breach.
Paragraph 2 is the regulatory breaches.
Yeah,
And data
and the
protection
legislation
act.
is Data Protection Act.
No, you know, I was trying to write it down quickly. Get that.
We are Unit
The
5,
paper on Unit 5,
Yeah, turn to page
224.
224. Or 225, whatever
We
says.
start on 224.
Section 3.
224, where the heading say understanding
Regulatory risk.
And the middle page part would say
Understanding
regulatory
regulatory
risk.
risk, right there.
And the middle part. And then 3.1.
What is the RRM she talking about here?
The regulatory risk management, that's what RRM.
And she said the whole paper is on Unit 5.
Oh, and the last paper was on Unit 4. The topic we did after we turned it in. Mother said.
I was saying,
Me and Deron was saying that from 3 classes ago. All them examples they had right there.
yeah, because I in this, I looked at a lot of. Hold on, what? The last paper was what?
On unit 4 love.
The last paper we just turned in as in the first assignment?
Yes, ma'am.
Should we get another set now?
I don't know, love, what you want me to say? It was on unit 4. She only teaches unit
1 to 3.
She ain't teaches 3.
No, but I looked at 3 when I was answering my.
She taught us 1 and 2. And then we had Taylor. We get it. Oh. You see Taylor? You tell him.
He didn't have to do that. He gave me
And even all.
the drop his thing.
Don't let us pause with that.
I can't happen who he boss is.
You asked my boss to come back here though.
I didn't ask him about that, yeah.
Didn't you agree with?
I said to tell
Didn't you
him
agree
he
with the
didn't.
masses
No.
that you wanted him
You
to
sure
hear?
she knows what she talking about?
That was on unit 3, friend. If you look at unit 3 with all them examples. With
No, you
N1
said unit 4
Sorry,
just
unit
now.
4, with all those N1 examples and everything. That was the paper.
I mean, thank God I was able to reference all of
Exactly, because Taylor had those examples in his notes.
Yeah.
So he did help.
I
He always does.
Feelings.
what I
You
said
basically could have read your paper
was,
from the stuff he gave you.
you could have.
Oh, I like that man because she
Oh,
was
no
coaching
class
us.
next week.
That Taylor doesn't. Right, notes.
But
Our
she-
last class is now March 13th.
Shit, I didn't match 13th.
What's your name is? Yeah.
Because I
You,
was
what the other people from Fidelity?
Yeah,
Any
traveling
class?
for 7.
Yeah, what people?
And you all going to FIBA?
We right here.
Who's we?
I'm Michael.
That's you.
I went last year.
What's your name is?
You going?
That's you, Kate.
I went last
Anybody
year.
else? Only you
Is
also?
Larissa?
No.
Not for Larissa?
Larissa work with us. Anybody else?
That's why I could be
Else?
here for the 13th.
Oh,
Only you also.
she can be
She
here.
emailed that.
Someone Fidelity, yeah. Who's you?
Why? He answered
I'm
me.
saying that it's on another class?
I still waiting on Taylor to answer my question from the 52nd Facebook AML.
She went through all the
And I
questions
wait
with
on,
us.
Taylor answer question when it's coming there to file.
Oh.
He's on the plane.
Okay then.
That's all. She went through all the questions with us from 1 to 7.
The final doesn't go on.
When we were doing the first assignment.
What you want me to say, friend?
Results coming out
I don't know what you want me to say.
for the first one.
Next week.
Next Monday.
Well,
This February.
They said ready March, eh?
We should get that now. We should get that.
6 weeks, eh?
Result.
6
I
weeks.
thought they said March.
It'd be
I think it's
6 weeks.
now.
Third of the month.
It
That
ain't
could be
10
the end of this
So
month.
we handled
That could
it,
be
that
handled
is
on
2
the
weeks,
14th. That could be the
January.
end of this month.
And now by the end of February, we should have
Yeah,
that.
we should have that. Yeah.
That Thursday, usually it's coming on a Thursday
I
morning.
don't know if anyone does.
And
Yeah.
okay.
Listen,
Let's y'all have been nervous now.
after she said what she said, after reading through that chapter 3, I don't even want to see that
They
paper.
grade their papers
Hard.
And they like say you email at 4 o'clock in the
They
morning.
grade them harder than
They
they
said-
4 o'clock in the truth. You know what I'm saying? I picture for my sleep time. Look at that grade. I was like,
No.
Jesus.
Sorry.
What I'm saying
Because
is,
once I see
if we had an
International
exam- if,
Compliance
like, when we get
Association at
exam,
4 o'clock in the morning, you
we
only
had
do
an
one day.
exam, right? But you could see they grade the papers harder than they would grade
The exam, because you have all the materials for the paper.
I know that, that's why I'm trying to lose bright eyes. It was at the not have exams.
Me. I wouldn't know exam.
I don't want no exam, girl.
Exam.
That mean that
You
just organize yourself.
we organize ourselves.
You had 45 minutes.
That don't work.
For
to
each
literally ask you-
question.
and each question, you have to answer all the questions.
Well, I've done an exam like that before, that's why.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I done an exam
Loyal.
like that before too, but I had my binder.
Yeah, you have your binder,
I
you
had my
organize
binder,
yourself.
that's
and
all. We did that.
Organize and all legislation and all that stuff.
Well, I'm sorry.
See,
I thought I
some
was
people-
organized and that time's still gone like.
Yeah.
No time went quick.
That-
But the sad part is,
They
I
have
even
the
gave them,
living in
I even
situation
gave
like
all
that.
them in my room the time to stop and start a new question. Some people say roll it, like some people only answer 3.
Really?
They have had the meat of
Like
it.
last people only answer.
And they- and those
And it was
tests.
only 45 minutes to
Are
go.
you serious?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Some
don't
people
mess
say
up,
that.
you don't mess up right.
I answered the last question in the last year.
What they do?
That was enough.
They what?
I answered
You
all
answered
of
two,
them.
I literally
Make sure I
answered
finish
two
it.
One had the right
questions.
point,
One
but
45 minutes left to go.
answered the question.
Yeah.
That was it, girl.
Hey, 45, when I see 45 minutes go, I got the next question. Would I answer
Oh,
that
that's
question?
not too bad. Boy, when I look at my clock, I said, okay, we can just not worry about you no more.
Oh, Lord.
226, what's the importance of section 4? Yes, the risk management process. What's the importance of that section? What's the importance of section 4? Yes. About the risk management process. Remember? No, you can do it then. You remember reading that part?
Controlling it.
The risk management process?
Yeah.
Oh,
What happened?
He got you in on the
No,
question
no.
in the book.
okay, what about it?
What's the importance of it?
Accepting it, controlling it, mitigating it.
Identifying it first.
Identifying,
Mhm.
assessing,
Okay.
Then controlling or mitigating it.
Mm-hmm.
controlling and mitigating.
And that sounds like something you need to do?
Yes.
Okay.
But I should know this.
Yes, you should know that.
I had to sit
We
down
did
and
this
write-
in AML.
Yes, you did.
I had to sit down and write risk.
But it's not just for
assessment
money
all day.
laundering. Because it's a process. It's a risk process.
Right.
And so that risk process could be applied to any risk.
I come from A&M.
Yeah, but we ain't doing AML now.
No, I know, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
And then when you go to 233, they say the risk management regime. A firm's senior management must. And then it tells you what senior management must also monitor.
What that is, 4.1.
That's what
Page
we're
234.
234.
It's
No,
on my
mine
page is
too.
different.
My only print the thing on the page numbers.
4.4.2.
234.
4.4.2.
Okay, thank you.
4.4.
Point two.
Yeah, right here. These two.
All right.
Because based on those, you'll be able to see where there are deficiencies from a management level. Okay, then the systems and controls. On here. And then you have to look at how does this link into GRC? How does this link into GRC? And page 237 tells you how it is linked.
5.1.
Hold on, what about?
5.1.
5.1 tells you how it is linked.
How was it linked?
The systems and controls.
This whole looking at regulatory risk, assessing what the risk is, identifying, mitigated against it, how does it tie into GRC? Now, 6. 6 looks like it's leading you towards what you're going to recommend, correct? Okay. When designing a regulatory risk management program, what should it include? (239) says the components of any regulatory compliance risk management framework should include 1. Principles, see above. That's the principles above. 2. Leadership and commitment, integration, design, implementation, evaluation, improvement.
What page is that?
249.
Communication, scope, risk assessment, risk treatment, monitoring, and reviewing.
What that is, what point what?
6 points.
This is 6.
Page 239. Oh, 6.
Right on this list. And before reference.
So let's go to 2, 3. I think that goes there and there. I want you to look at 8.2. Well, 8.2 is about. What's the question about?
8.2.
Oh, there's a light.
Internal
Internal
investigation.
Conducting an investigation.
Mm-hmm.
How to conduct the investigation.
And then 8.2.2 says what? Notifying the board. 8.2.3 says notifying the regulator. So then you have to determine whether or not the breach is minor or major. And of course, when you finish writing, you have to be able to tell the board whether or not 8.3, whether there's going to be a sanction imposed by the regulator based on the breach. So Unit 5 has 2 appendices, Appendix 1 and Appendices 2. Appendices 2 speak about getting ready for a regulatory visit. Appendix 1 speaks about establishing and designing a compliance program.
You need to turn on.
I didn't think.
So when you look at this whole scenario, there's one particular risk they're focusing on, but it points you to what is their compliance program. So one says the elements of an effective compliance program are more than just a policy and an internal compliance monitoring plan. To be effective, there should be at a minimum the following initiatives and procedures. Policies, procedures.
You're on page
This is
258,
Appendix
appendix
5,
1.
appendix.
Appendix 1.
Appendix 1.
A code of conduct, Risk assessment. Other elements of a successful compliance program include communication standards, training of employees, internal and external reporting requirements and standards, monitoring and auditing of the effectiveness of the compliance program, and investigation of potential non-compliance and any subsequent disciplinary actions required. So when you write, you're gonna have to speak about the organization's compliance program, where you see deficiencies or gaps, and then your recommendation.
Sarah, one more time.
How to talk about the organization, compliance programs, and where you see deficiencies and gaps. Now you go speak together.
Non-risk policy.
Right.
And then 2.5 gives you some more clues of things that you can put in. It tells you senior and middle management engagement. You can also comment whether you saw that from the scenario. What's that? Oh. Hi, hello. Hello.
Hi.
Can you turn down the music, television? Or mute it? Thank you. Yeah. No, she didn't.
No. We ain't gonna.
She hang up. You wanna do it?
No, but she could just
I know, I
mute it.
know.
She just mute her and all she can, so she can listen.
I know, next time she did that, somebody babysit a child, she too did and don't want mute.
So look how it says on 258. It tells you what should be in an effective compliance program. And don't forget, you're not lifting it at all. These are questions you ask yourself. You look at the role of senior and middle management. Autonomy and resources of the compliance function. I don't think there was an issue in here. You have to look to see which one of these were the issues. Compliance policies and procedures. They have some questions there. Risk assessment. Training and communication.
Definitely, yeah.
Confidential reporting and investigation.
Yep.
Incentives and disciplinary measures. Continuous improvement, periodic testing and review. Third-party management. Analysis and remediation of underlying misconduct. So you decided on all of those, what you see based on the question was missing in their compliance program. Now remember, I went through all of the sections in Unit 5, because when you write this answer, you must write this answer from a risk perspective. And when you write it from a risk perspective, your report is going to whom? To the board. So that means that when you write it, you must write it in GRC language. You're writing to the board. Got that? Okay. So now let's dissect the question. What?
I said, look at the okay.
Oh, by the way, she's not gonna be here next week, so class will be on March 13th instead.
Right.
Okay,
Good.
so we off next week.
Yeah.
And
Oh, and
Oh,
send
your first draft is due on March 13th.
Okay.
Bring your draft here on March 13th. If you can't make it, email it to CRM@yahoo.com.
Thank you.
Okay, well, send me that email because I'm traveling and I may have to have the children in the background.
You ready?
give it to you.
You ready? I said, no, she's calling back.
She calling back?
Yeah, she's calling
What
back.
I? Oh,
She hang up.
Hang up.
She hang up. She is serious with learning. She is serious.
yeah, because he doesn't come for
Underscore
UWI.
UWI.
Yeah.
At Yahoo.
So you are a regulatory compliance and risk consultant working for IO. So remember when I say you heard here those words, regulatory compliance, what jumps out at you? We said it already.
Sorry, read it again.
Those who are in charge of being the gatekeepers of the risk compliance.
No, regulatory, that means regulations.
Regulation.
Yes, that's what regulatory compliance does. So their job is this. I'll narrow it down for you. Now there are many pages. So based upon the scenario, we read it before. First thing comes to your mind, it says regulatory compliance. Regulatory means regulations, laws. Which laws affect this question?
Data protection.
Okay. Next question, what section? Or sections? They go here. Next one, who's responsible for it in the organization?
Compliance.
Yes, let me hear. Not GRC language.
The board.
No, that's not GRC language.
Who's real?
Senior management.
Who's responsible for it? Who's responsible for this? Mm-hmm.
From inside, from the
Tell her she needs to mute that thing.
Line, the first line.
Which one?
Second line.
Wouldn't it be internal audit?
All.
First line?
All though, because they're tracking everybody in the
She
organization.
said who's responsible for writing it?
No, not writing
Not
it.
writing
Oh.
it.
Who's responsible for this and their day-to-day
That's the
activities?
The
Oh,
employees,
first line.
the first,
First line.
First
Okay.
line, yes.
Oversight. Who has oversight?
Compliance.
Okay.
This Miss Archer.
Mm.
This good girl, this Miss Archer.
No, I'm not. We're doing the assignment.
Yeah, girl, that's why you should be
Come take a seat and come learn.
We got a class 11 lecture next week.
here. Oh.
Brian. Brian.
He trying to write it before she erase it. He can make sure you straight. Listen about the
See what they doing
question.
over there.
Brian can make sure you
What?
straight.
I hope so.
Brian.
Caitlin, you got me, but I sure Brian got me. I sure he
He's
got me.
hiding.
Ah, Jesus, God is all.
She's in there.
No. Mm-mm. All right. And then what goes here?
What's the
IO policy.
Isn't that what this place name?
International.
Oh,
That's
that's
it.
it.
Okay, I got you.
Uh-huh. So what goes here? Who said they don't know?
That's the internal audit? I know
No.
that. Oh, I don't know.
What goes here?
IO policy, compliance? We didn't say compliance for oversight.
No.
Would it be the board?
No.
Like policies and procedures.
Policies.
Yes.
Procedures.
What policies do they have that
Oh,
captures this?
That's what you mean.
Yeah. IO policy. So it's either with
That's the
paragraph
manuals.
or unit that refers to this. And you have one of these for each legislation. So you map the legislation to the responsibility, to the oversight, and to your actual internal
So what other
policy.
legislation we need to be looking at?
You tell me. I'm answering it for you. I give you the framework to get started. It says in an industry of your choice. So if you choose banking, then you need another legislation. Correct? What is that? Yeah.
The
Need another one.
FDRA?
FDR, right?
But that's what this is about, you have the section.
We'll find that out.
Just
We
look
just
at
gotta say
right.
Chassis said FDRA. Chassis said FDRA.
Where?
For the regulation.
Something out there, protection, something more.
And there's some confidentiality, no?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, confidentiality is
Mm-hmm. What is it?
I did it.
Oh, Lord, what's wrong with you all?
I was just gonna say that, BTCRA, Bahamas Trust Company.
Central Bank say that, but we thought she was wrong, since you only say yeah.
What was that though?
Central Bank,
Oh, I didn't hear her.
Section 19.
she too soft, she gotta speak up.
Section 19.
Yeah, she did.
A data protection act, that's what she said.
She's not saying section 19.
No, she didn't. She said the BTCRA, Section 19.
Shh, I talking to Dolores.
Sorry about that, friend. Carry on.
Thanks for picking me up, Tom.
I got you, boo.
Okay.
Ooh, one chocolate again.
All right, so it says, you are a member of a project team recently formed to develop the approach to data protection and confidentiality. And then you have the other one. Is it FTRA or FTRR? Which one? Speaks to what? Protection or confidentiality?
confidentiality.
Protection,
FTRA, you said?
Reporting,
I say FRTA.
confidential.
Oh,
It speaks to confidentiality.
You sure?
That's what I
The
have
section?
here. That's what I have here.
Okay, so you have to develop the approach based on the recent minor incidents and near misses. So they've already determined that the incidences are what? Minor.
Nemesis.
Minor. Near
They have
misses.
given senior management of the firm cause for concern. So, we've already said it's their responsibility. So here, the scenario is gonna tell you where they see deficiencies. Second paragraph. On the customer-facing side of the firm, isn't that the first line? A recent monitoring review identified that in a small but nonetheless significant percentage of the sample tested, information belonging to one client had been incorrectly stored in the online records of several others, seemingly due to a data input error. What's the risk?
Confidentiality.
Mm-hmm. Due to?
Input error, data input error.
Yeah, but it's a human error. So what does that mean? Checks.
nobody's
No,
checking
don't
it.
check
check
all
it,
that.
all right?
Nobody's saying that.
There you go, see, now you're talking risk.
Check.
No one is checking it.
Identify the risk, assess the risk. You have to follow what I just finished putting on the board. Everything goes through a process. What was all this? It is a lot, that's why you have all these weeks to do it.
80 and a lot no more, we would have had 12.
So data input error tells you that someone is not checking, correct? What that tells you? Yes.
There's a weakness in there.
There's a gap in the procedures. And you have to do it this way step by step in order to make your recommendations. Oh, what this tea there is now.
I'd rather clean the arts.
Patriots all. You don't even know the risk and process.
A brief analysis of breach incident logs in the past 2 days. What is that telling you?
Very recent.
A brief analysis of breach incident logs in the past 2 days. What does that tell you?
It's been.
They still going on?
They only skimmed for that, they didn't effectively.
No. That tells you they have a policy which includes an incident log. So they already have this process in place. You gotta look at what they have and what they don't have. So a brief analysis of breach incident logs in the past 2 days for the purposes of gaining initial insight into practices in this area has identified an increasing volume of near-miss breaches of this type in recent months, involving staff from different departments and levels of the firm. What am I telling you? The signs that it's even getting bigger, right? Because it's from different departments. So, what do we have? Plus what else? Yes, monitoring.
Yes, so they're monitoring until they come up with it, but, you know, control.
Because someone's checking us. So that's
Controls.
not monitoring.
And when it says from different departments and levels of firm, it seems as if no one is actually reading the policy. I train you, you train this one, all by word of mouth.
Because that's what they
What
show
about
me.
training?
Word about an
That's
experience,
how they see us
Yes,
do
and
it.
not following
procedures.
the actual policies and procedure.
They not here too.
Right. So that's the point you have to put down, because you're gonna need that later down.
That's still happening.
Yes.
All that happens all day, everywhere.
So IO is keen to address this issue swiftly to ensure there is no ongoing occurrence of such incidences and avoid the occurrence of actual breaches. Feel free.
But that point is you say we should put down?
People's training.
Training by
No, I
word
know
of
it's
mouth.
actually
Following
reading
the
and
policies.
The policies and procedures. So the project team has been provided with an appropriate level of resource to pursue the project, as well as given access to staff at all levels within the firm to assist in its implementation, and has the full support of the senior management team, which is aware of these incidents. What I'm telling you in that first, in that sentence. GRC,
Approval from senior management.
from the head, from the top,
Has been
top down.
provided.
The tone is coming from the top, that this issue must be addressed, remedied, and zero tolerance. So the tone is from the top. So So and it says then, the team decided to commence immediately, doing it low-key. Review of the approach to data protection and confidentiality within IO. This is carried out by you and 3 of IO's permanent senior compliance and risk staff. Don't forget that you are a consultant. You review logs, reports, guidance, and training materials. You speak to staff in a variety of roles across the business. What you find supports the view that the weaknesses in these areas are indeed more than one-off lapses, and that there appears to be a pattern of issues, difficulties developing around these, and that problems are widespread. Specifically, staff appear unclear on requirements and what is expected of them. More than that. It must be clear when you read this chapter, people have to know their yes. You note in particular that the incidents have increased in frequency since the installation of a new record-keeping system in certain parts of the business, and also following a shift to a paperless management approach several months ago, when all management and staff were provided with updated technology, including new phones and laptops. What I'm telling you.
Like, the phone, they don't know where how to use.
Uh-huh.
No protection on the computer.
You move from, we have this, right?
Could it not be that the policies that are existing didn't comply with these new technologies that they have? Ms. Archer?
Huh? It could be. It could be steps missing.
Yeah.
They didn't
They
update it.
didn't update
So we
everything else, but they
move
didn't
from
update the
paper
policy. The paperless.
to
Electronic.
a machine.
Daddy no.
That's a machine. That's it.
Mano,
Okay? And then at the same time, because we move from paper to machine. And then at the same time, you move from to new phones and laptops. So what is that telling you?
They're not relying on it's manual.
GRC.
Oh, okay.
You already have this. That's the issue. What's the risk?
Like I was saying, when they, maybe IO had policies, in which they did, in place dealing with how they handle client data when it was paper. They have updated now their machines, and I'm noticing all of a sudden, since we moved from paper to these electronic, we're now having the issues, which means that we need to have policies and procedures that are in place that's gonna combat whatever risk this is gonna pose to the company, whether, I mean,
Is that a little slow?
I don't mean saying so they might have been doing it from wrong from the beginning. It's just not software now picking it up.
No, they're just picking it up now. Could be,
Yeah.
but
Automate.
normally when you automate based upon the procedure already had in place. So there's certain things that jump out at you, like she's saying, you need to update the policies and procedure. Was the training adequate? And then here, was it a phased approach? Because everything is timing. So then let's go down here. Look at my phone, isn't it nice?
That's a firm?
It's a phone.
Phone and a laptop.
iPhone, girl.
Phone, that's what I see this.
Yeah, please try that again.
You happy?
Chocolate.
Listen, you in compliance, you in an act, we got you.
That's great.
She wants to lose.
That's a little boat. Oh, purse, what that is?
That's my laptop. The bag.
The bag ain't.
This is the bag, the laptop inside.
Laptop inside the bag.
I got a lock.
Well, what I telling you? Yes.
Internet use.
Mm-hmm. There's a whole slew of policies, procedures
That
that govern
Let's go to electronic.
electronic
Where it is used as well.
communication. Now you see the issues? They jumping out at you now, hey. I can stop, hey.
No.
Listen up when you reach the end.
And now it makes so much more sense now.
What?
It makes so much more sense now.
I don't want nobody coming the week after next, but start over.
Child, who was in here? Myself, child. They better go look at the
But you know
recording.
Sarah in here, that's another favorite.
Oh, no, she can go back to Sarah.
Question
You know
and I
that.
say, no, that doesn't mean that. That means this. And I start telling him, he's like, okay, repeat it. He said, it's gone.
You got to go back to Sarah because you know Sarah's one of your
Just,
favorites.
Yeah. You know
If
that.
that was me on the road,
2 weeks later,
if that was us, you know all. Y'all
you
should have
better
got
get it
the
from
class.
us.
Sarah, let's get it from you.
Brian, the second, the first paper to
So-
make sure.
In light of these findings, what is this unit by gravel for? You believe urgent action is required. You agree, right?
Absolutely.
Looking at we put on the board. So you schedule a meeting with the board to discuss your findings and recommendations for action. Taking into account all that has been said in the above, prepare a report for distribution at the meeting to act as a base for the discussions. So when you write, you're gonna say what the findings are,
There's a guidance paper, right?
what the issues are, and what are the risks you see.
And recommendation.
We ain't get there yet. The report should include a brief summary of your findings, explain why these findings represent a risk if they continue.
Oh, feeler.
However, the report should be predominantly focused on recommendation for action. And I didn't give you plenty of them on the board.
What we need to do, what we need to do.
Supported by a plan of this action. So this is what you need to do, and this is how you're gonna carry it out. To ensure the risks arising from weaknesses in respect of data protection and confidentiality are addressed both in the immediate and longer term. So in here, you could even put the documentation where the employees have to sign for confidentiality. Yep.
There you go.
Sign off. Like to sign off.
Oh.
Confidentiality. So you make your recommendations, and then you need a plan of action. And when you're at the very beginning, when you start and you talk about your summary of your findings are supposed to be risk focused.
Ms. Archer, So in the end, they said that we had to address, I guess you have to look at short-term and long-term, recommendations, right? So they're looking at, okay, whatever we find, what needs to be corrected right this very second.
Yes, what's immediate?
And then go in policies and procedures that's gonna prevent it from happening in the future.
So now, for next week, what do I, not next week after next. What I want,
Sorry, can I let me guys next
we got,
Yes, it's no class next week. But the last class will be March 13th, and she wanted the draft. Or if you want to be here, email it. CRM, _UWI.
so when I see you again in 2 weeks, I want a brief summary of your findings. CM.
Oh.
Don't mind her written off, she got it written right.
That's right, I have it right.
Summary of your findings
Okay, summary of
and why these findings represent a risk. That's the first one. So by that time, you should have gone on the internet and done your research with regard to what are the policies and procedures that cover when an organization moves from manual to electronic. There are like 5 or 6 different types of policies and procedures that fall under here. Okay?
I telling you?
Huh? Yeah. Okay, hold on one sec. Why you look like that? Not you, how?
She's talking about
And then she said.
previous.
We are talking about it, we appreciate you.
I'll be back for that part. The first part wasn't good.
April, she covered one night with homegirls, still
Listen
in
to me.
cover. And
We do a whole chapter tonight. I'm mad. I feel like I went 4 weeks.
That's what I'm telling you.
I want my 4 weeks back.
When the company went bad.
Moves from manual to electronics.
I serious.
Like this sticking in there. Sticking in. I got a class for 3 weeks. I was here for her.
She making sure
She didn't teach us nothing. No, she knows she's launched up in music coming here.
Yeah. It's correct.
That's why she do that. And you still ain't get nothing good like tonight.
She waited till half an hour before it was time to leave to skim through the paper.
Last week?
Huh?
Last week.
We ain't here.
Okay.
I pay my money. No, we supposed to have, who it is, who travel it? Marsha, Bullet.
She teach Ferguson.
Who, Marsha?
Archer.
Of course she's teaching AML. We have
She wasn't scheduled.
She wasn't scheduled like that when I seen her. But they always travel.
So I was the only person who went to
You know
AML.
what it's talking
Who you
about.
were?
Who went to AMLA?
What you mean?
I go to AML.
Wasn't you here?
Oh, last? AML something.
She
like-
talking about the first part.
Oh,
What?
now. Oh.
Kinda.
What's the
You're a
problem?
GRC now. What is AML?
Is she doing the two at the same
She doing
time?
it too.
Oh.
Really?
She brave like a lady.
Yes.
Wow. Good luck.
When your first paper due for AML?
Free papers, no fine.
No, we have, yeah, I know, I know, I know.
Yes, the free papers.
Day.
Same day as the Jiggle.
That's when your first paper due.
The same day as GRC.
Yeah.
So when your second paper was due?
April.
Around July 8th, that's the second.
Brian, give us some of that cheese, you share.
We have a very good lecture.
Miss Archer, yeah, she good. I hear she good.
Man.
I hear she good. You
We
hear
have
she
that
good
on
too, eh?
Saturday.
Oh, you have a Saturday class too?
Yeah.
Oh, so you don't know from Saturday
You
class?
don't know from Saturday.
And
She
she don't
don't
be
talk.
talking.
She don't talk.
She was talking like she be talking this class.
Yeah.
You didn't talk in that, you didn't talk in that one.
No, she was talking to
Only in
Beth
here.
now.
Only in here she's gonna open up her mouth.
No, because the class new.
We was new too. What you trying to say?
But y'all talking there.
Not only that, she's scared of bejesus out of being in that class.
She's scared of student first class.
She's scared of soap.
Our first class, our first class, all that's left for the headaches. All of us. I was
She always
depressed.
came with a headache.
I was, listen.
I said, Lord.
You well known.
You too, Deron.
Not me. Nobody know me.
If she know me, she know you.
You sit beside her, so you know.
That's okay. That's okay.
No, that's church saying amen.
That's what the church gonna have to say yes on this one.
Girl,
Why?
you didn't start your first paper for AML? Miss Archie here?
Did you start
She
class?
ain't started yet.
Thursday.
I have the paper. Which one for Emma?
Yes. Yo, you went over
We
on
went
Saturday.
over it on
And
Saturday.
you ain't started yet?
I thought it was,
Why you in my business?
Cause you got two at the same time? I look out for you.
Saturday was in your class. You ain't seen
Huh?
nothing. You ain't seen nothing on Saturday.
You wasn't there?
I was.
No, you was not.
You.
You was not.
I was there.
No, you was not. Why would you go there on a Saturday? You finished that section.
Hallelujah.
You give them motivation.
To make her work this
Girl, she's scared of the Jesus.
Alright, so you're gonna do some research, and let me see your summary. Notice it says brief.
Brief summary.
Brief. So brief means that all of this that you would have done in the background is not in the paper. This is your working. They want a brief summary of your findings and explain why these findings represent a risk. And remember, when you speak about risk, risk means weaknesses. Because a weakness represents a risk. And a weakness means that there are gaps and deficiencies, or. Why?
I just wanna be lucky.
So, Ms. Archie, since we done gone to chapter 5 and the paper, what we doing for like the next few
Mind
weeks?
your business.
I want to know.
There are other things you need to learn.
Exactly.
You need Miss Archer?
I ain't answering for her though.
Why? She don't need nobody to answer her.
This is just the assignment.
Exactly.
I already asked her. I paid my money to ask questions, and that's what I
Exactly.
did.
Do you want to miss class?
I never, you ever seen me miss a class?
Okay.
Except that one time when I did it right.
So anyway, while they're doing that,
You disrespectful.
no,
I don't know what to step out.
they just like being here with you.
Yeah, we missed off. We missed off.
Besides, I ain't gonna lie, right? You really should have started up this class for the second assignment.
Like 4 weeks ago.
It's good that we have at the last part.
Yeah, at the end of the
Because this when the
I did
paper
As a matter of fact, you all should have had something drafted already.
Shut
How?
up, please. On here?
How? We just got assistance last week.
I read the sketch, the thing tonight, and I didn't come up with one thing or two from my head. I knew where it centered around, like what legislation was needed. That was it.
And that's
I
all we
did
was
the
told.
research. I did.
That's all we was basically told.
See my draft right here, data protection, confidentiality.
That's it.
That's it.
Powerful.
I am serious.
Miss
Miss
Archer,
Archer, be serious too.
we got more in this film.
Fred, tell her we read for 4 weeks, yo. She didn't believe me.
No, we were read too for
See?
4 weeks.
You mind him, Brian?
That's what I said. We did one in the first class and the last
You know,
class.
first. Mm-mm.
First,
Thank you.
we got help with us 30 minutes before class out last week.
Thank you. We keep asking to pick up the paper. Yeah, last class.
And on top of that, we were kept in there till 11 o'clock in the night.
True.
I we was here like 8:30. Like, we was here like 8:30. I felt like 12 o'clock midnight.
Let me tell you why it was. You remember the first class with
They was dropping like flies. She started off, and then came Liv, and then everybody just, and then her, and another girl, and it was just like, oh, I take class all day. It's 7:45. Why did you feel?
I feel so bad, right? Because if you didn't see
You just are leaving?
We left at 8:15.
First class was only 3 of us.
Only 3 of us left at 8:15.
That's all them get up on.
I felt bad.
And Brian and Lisa, that's cool. I know, and this, only this side, that side, empty, they gone. She
The
said
in the
class
middle,
away.
the woman have been like this, in the middle of class over here was. She was like,
Okay.
7:30 is my cutoff time. I
And
work
then-
very hard. 7:30 is my cutoff
Then the
time.
second week, she come and she brings some chocolates, but she try to keep us here longer. To give us some sugar, that was the trick. Give us some energy, cause we leave here, but even 12 o'clock midnight.
I am telling you, I'm like, what?
I reach the 9 o'clock, I was fine. Oh, I reach the 9 o'clock.
So when we have other classes.
And still didn't cover anything.
How to drop things.
Okay.
So I started first, so you get started on the
Paper.
so you come with the focus. Because once you get this designation, there are other things that is expected of you. No one's gonna teach you how to do it.
That's right.
From today, I am not sure right now.
Well, Brian, you know you wait for.
Alright?
Thank you.
See y'all in 2 weeks.
See what time it is, Miss Archer?
Decent.
We never leave this time 4 weeks. Thank you, Jesus, I'm back.
I think you did it at 9.
No!
If y'all going home to cook, let me know where y'all live, because I come and fuck everybody else.
Along the way.
Brian, I'm gonna just spend an hour tonight.
I tell him to wait in the morning.
That's all I heard.